Hi, thank you so much. So I have a couple things to say. First, I just want to start with, why I'm bringing this item and why I think it's important. And then I want to talk a little bit about what an EIFD is and why I think it's a useful financing mechanism for this specific project, as well as to just kind of put a point and an underline on some of the kind of direction that was contained in the board letter to make sure that I uplift that as well, because I do know an EIFD can be a little bit complicated for folks. So I think very big picture, what are we looking at here? Just like in the previous item, this is about, first and foremost, is about affordable housing. We know that we continue to face an affordable housing crisis in our county. And again, while we probably won't get RHNA credits for this initiative, although I have asked that we try our darndest, not very hopeful that that will come to pass. That is not the reason and the rationale to do the right thing. It's not to get the credit, it's because we got to do what's right for our community. And we do know that the project that's been proposed at the city and has been discussed at the city for a good long while now at Midway has some really exciting affordable housing investments for families, for singles, for older folks, as well as a lot of amenities to go along with those. And we're looking at potentially 2,000 units of deeply affordable housing, which I think is very important. So that, as we continue to talk about what we can do to ensure that people can afford to continue to live in the communities in which they work, and that we can continue doing everything we can to tackle the rising costs of rents and buying a home, this project is very much in line with those objectives and those ambitions that we have adopted as a board as top priorities. So I think the work on affordable housing is very important. But I think equally important is ensuring that if a project is to move forward, and I think it's important to underline that it is an if and not a when, and that the purpose of this item today is to explore whether it even pencils, whether it makes sense, whether the financing actually works, and to kind of have the beginning of a conversation with the city about what we would need to see included in a project to meet the needs of the constituents and individuals that already live there. So again, the second piece that's equally important is making sure that the well-being, the quality of life, the concerns, and the needs of the folks that are already living in that community or would be moving into that community are foregrounded, right? We're not just shoving people into boxes. We're really trying to figure out how do we tackle some of the existing circulation issues that already are huge challenges in Midway. What else can and must be done to tackle traffic and congestion? What other kind of important public amenities do we need to build in this area to meet the needs of a growing community? What kind of parks, what kind of other public infrastructure? And I know this, of course, is my district that I'm speaking to constituents and all the time and community members that people are rightly concerned about making sure that whatever we do does not cause more traffic, it doesn't create more congestion, that we already know we have a fairly impacted thoroughfare, right, in the area that is under consideration by this project. So equally important is not just the housing, but the infrastructure investments in circulation, in tackling traffic, and creating better opportunities for transit, in green space, and open space, and recreational amenities. All that is really, really vital in order to make this make any sense for the community. So I brought this forward because this item has been under consideration and under discussion for a long time at the city. They are the lead entity on this initiative. It is their land. But ultimately, it's unlikely, according to all the project financing proposals that have been put forward, extremely unlikely that this project could be built without the county also participating in an EIFD, and that it would need to come in as a partner if this project was going to move forward. And so those are my two primary motivations is that we can do what we need on pedestrians and access to green space and traffic and make sure that those investments happen and are prioritized, while also moving forward what could genuinely be a transformative affordable housing investment for our region. So what this item does today is ask staff to basically huddle up with the city that already has their team working on this, as well as the developers that have kind of sketched out what the financing is going to look like and what is currently being proposed for the site, and figure out whether an EIFD could make sense and what some of the alternatives and options are for how that EIFD would be structured. And then this is not to approve anything or to say that we're actually going to move forward with this, but rather just to ask staff to begin the conversation so that we then as a board would have some options to consider. So that gives me to my third piece that I wanted to make sure I mentioned, which is EIFDs and what is an EIFD and what do we mean specifically in this proposal. EIFDs basically could be used in lots and lots of different context. So I only want to talk about the EIFD in this specific context of this project. And what I've proposed here is to limit the scope of the EIFD to the geographic footprint of the development project that's being proposed, which basically means that what we're looking at is if and when there's additional tax revenue generated by the project investment, then we are able to utilize a portion of that incremental difference in tax revenue to finance the project in the first place. A good way to think about this is if you had a plot of land worth $1 million and we were getting $10,000 a year for that $1 million plot of land, and then we built, a private developer built a $9 million investment. So now the plot, now it's worth $10 million. So the same percentage would be getting us $100,000 instead of $10,000. So that tax increment would be $90,000. And you would be looking at only using the tax increment generated from the project investment itself, not from any of the surrounding areas. And that's important because if we were looking at using the tax increment from some of the surrounding areas, that might be money that would be taken away from other important county priorities. And I don't think that's not the direction that I'm proposing we go, and it's not what I want us to look at. I do not want us to look at options that would take money away from other county priorities. I only want us to look at options that that the money and those tax revenues would only exist because of the development investments that are being made by the project itself. It's kind of, the term is like but for. The money would not be there but for the investment. So hopefully that was clear. And again, we're not necessarily even looking at all of the additional tax increments. So in my example, I'd mentioned that if you had an investment and it went from a $10,000 in tax revenue to $100,000, that would be a $90,000 in tax increment that you could utilize for the investment to build the project. I am looking for the county team to come back with financing options that hopefully only use a portion of that tax, that increment to finance the project. So for example, if the project generates $90,000 in additional tax increment, but they only need $50,000 of that to build the project, that leaves the county with $40,000 more for other priorities, $40,000 more than we would have otherwise had, while ensuring that the project can be built because we're providing the financing that's needed in order to build the project. So happy to go down a rabbit hole on EIFDs. I really like tax policy. It's my favorite subject, but I will stop there. I just wanted to make sure that that was kind of uplifted because it was a little technical in the board letter. So with that, I'd like to make a motion and hope to answer any questions from my colleagues. Thank you.